Well, ladies and gentlemen, CES 2024 is officially in the books, with it ending yesterday on the 12th. And I wanted to go over a few things here today, some pretty cool pieces of tech that we may never own ourselves and have in our house, some others that probably go a bit too far to solve what's really a simple thing we used to do with our phones. And of course, we gotta talk about the debacle around the AI Mario that made a surprise appearance on the showroom floor. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel. So let's start with the AI Mario. This appeared on X or Twitter randomly out of nowhere. Like, I was scrolling through the timeline and boom, there's a Mario hologram at CES that Gregory here shared the video of, and they were asking this Mario questions, which, look at this thing. It's, apparently they asked him a question around, like, where do I go buy video games, and it suggested for them to go to Target. Well, I'll let you hear it for yourself.
The one you're interested in. Grab the game from the shelf and proceed to the checkout counter to make your purchase. You can also check online on the Target website for video game options and have them delivered or reserved for in-store pickup. Happy gaming.
Maybe we owe Chris Pratt an apology for all the stuff that went through when we first heard the voice. But we did get some backstory to this situation, exactly why this just randomly appeared on the CES 2024 floor. And that was a story that was evolving basically throughout the entire CES show. Kotaku actually tracked down and got an update from, I'm serious, AARP. Yeah, apparently they're developing like these AI avatars, these programs as part of Age Tech, which is a technology push from AARP that's focused on meeting the needs of the world's aging population, as in combating loneliness and improve telehealth. At least that's what they say. So I guess in the future, if Nintendo is willing to license us out to them, which they might not be jumping up and down to do that after seeing that that demonstration, you could have Mario keep you company when you get older. Well, they did issue a statement here to Kotaku saying the AI hologram animation briefly seen today is an unfinished proof of concept test for a client to demonstrate technological capabilities and innovation. It is not intended for commercial release. AARP and Nintendo were not involved in the inadvertent showing today. The fact that so many gamers of the world have taken notice shows that they are the best fans in the world, and we salute them. Really, it just for marketing, I guess people who were putting this together said, you know, let's use Mario. It's a well-known character. It's the Mickey Mouse of video games, and Mario's had an incredible run recently over the last 12 to 18 months with the theme park, movie, games. But because of all that, Nintendo, I'm sure it would be much more aggressive around some of this stuff, with a holographic Mario powered by AI and sponsored by AARP making an appearance at CES. So I'm sure some calls were made, and they'll probably end up thinking twice about using the Mario IP for a very creepy looking AI hologram next year. But with that, let's talk about some other things that were announced at CES that I found either interesting or just comical to a degree. So the MSI Claw was probably the leading product when it comes to gaming, as really looking at the gaming was kind of light at CES this year. It was mostly about TVs and AI, as you just saw with Mario. But the Claw, that's the A1M from MSI, and we discussed this a bit in Newswave when it was revealed and even also when it was leaked. But this one is so interesting because it falls in line with pricing for like the ROG Ally and the Lenovo Legion Go, it coming in at $700, but it's going to be tapping Intel with their Core Ultra 7 processor and a larger battery, which is probably one of the biggest sticking points around some of these portable PCs, these handheld PCs, is that the battery life just hasn't been great with them. So in this case, I'm curious to see some of the benchmarks that are not necessarily from MSI, as of course they put out some that certainly favor the Claw over everything else. But seeing what Intel has come up with here with their Ultra line, because there will be 2 different SKUs depending on the processor involved as well as the storage size. But when we run those up against the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, the Legion Go, which all use AMD, it could maybe open up more competition from Intel that might bring more and more companies into the space and hopefully accelerate the overall growth and development of these low-power chips. Next up, we have Swappery, which I had to bring in mostly because I think it's hilarious how complicated changing a battery in a phone has gotten. So think back to the old days of cell phones now, which really, if you consider the idea of hot swapping a battery to be an old feature, because now they're all just sealed, whether it's in Samsung's devices, OnePlus, the iPhone, all that just being closed up. You can't get to the battery easily. Even if you open it up, a lot of them are glued down, and it's a hazard at times, depending on how the battery ends up pulling to sparking or some craziness happening, right? Well, now we have a device called Swappery, which I'll let you see the video. Yeah, you attach this thing to the back of your phone, it plugs into the bottom, and you put it in a machine that takes 7 seconds to reload your battery. It removes the battery out of the clip that you have, puts a new one in, and then you're good to go. And it seems incredibly complicated overall, considering, I don't know, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago or something, we were just pulling the plastic back off of our phone, popping the battery out, popping a new one in, and really you could travel with multiple charged batteries in a bag, and it was pretty straightforward to do. But now we have docking stations that change it out. I mean, it's a creative way, I guess, to try to fix this, but really this is just consumers at the mercy of these manufacturers who don't want you changing the battery out in your phone yourself, probably because of overall repairability, and they'd rather you just either upgrade to the next phone or buy a new one. Here's something I thought was kind of interesting in a world that just feels sort of boring, been there, done that, and that's the 2-in-1 laptop, where it's either, as you see here, a laptop with a keyboard, or you disconnect the top and it becomes a tablet. That's not new necessarily, but the idea here is that it would also run 2 different operating systems, the ThinkBook Plus Gen 5, which means you have 2 different sets of specifications, as you can see, whether it's a Windows laptop with the Intel Core Ultra 7 processor or the Android tablet with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. And looking at this, I mean, the idea, I get it. It's that, okay, you don't have to travel with an Android tablet and then also a Windows laptop. It's all connected, and it changes on the fly depending on if it's docked in that keyboard base attachment here with the touchpad or if it's off with the tablet. The only thing that's kind of odd is the 2 operating systems don't talk to each other, despite them presenting it as one device. Apparently there's a picture-in-picture mode here, and the specifications aren't bad. Like, they're 32 gigabytes of RAM, again, a Ultra 7 processor. This isn't being positioned as something that would play all the games and stuff. It's more for workflow, professional use, on-the-go stuff. Like, I get that, but it's odd when people, I'm sure, out there would rather just have the same OS across, which means you'd probably just end up with an Android tablet that has a keyboard attachment, or I guess an iPad Pro that has the keyboard cover. It's just, I get them at least thinking outside the box here. It just seems like it's fairly limited compared to what you can already kind of do. Also, we have some good news for user repairability when it comes to some of these thinner Ultrabook laptops, as we had a new type of RAM that was introduced from Micron, the LPCAM 2. And the idea here is, in these smaller laptops, because the amount of space is limited, they just solder it straight to the board, which means if there is an issue with one of those RAM modules, you might as well just get a new laptop, because the BGA work that goes into that with a rework machine and the labor involved, I mean, you're looking at hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and again, you start to weigh your options. And unless there's something you desperately need that's on most likely some of the chips for the SSD that are also soldered to the board, you're probably moving on and it becomes just waste. Well, in this case, the Cam 2 you can see is detachable, and you can either upgrade the RAM or remove maybe a RAM module that's just bad. And it being completely modular is great, again, for users. Now, the one drawback is you can see there are screws still involved, so it's not to the point where you don't need any kind of tools necessarily. It's being toolless like previous laptops where you just slot new RAM in, click it down, and you're good to go. So there will still be something involved, but kind of reminds me of maybe the process of changing out NVMe drive as an example in a desktop or a laptop. Couple screws, pop it out, pop the new one in. Now, they did mention that the modules with the LPDDR5X RAM takes up 64% less space than the SODIMM memory, uses 61% less power, and are 71% faster in PC Mark 10 essential workloads, which means that not only do we have really something that's more convenient, I would say, for user repairability, it's also just better in general. So at least there's something here that they can market when it comes to speed and ability as opposed to just it being repairable. And then as for TVs, it was pretty standard in the sense of, hey, here are some even nicer looking OLED panels, some that aren't as reflective as others due to a coating that's on there. So in rooms where it's very bright, you won't have that like reflective glare from a window. But this is interesting. LG and Samsung, I noticed that they are working into the idea of transparent displays. So LG has an OLED that is coming to market for consumers, and that's the one that was really making the rounds and talked about a lot because I think it's close to where you're going to walk into a Best Buy potentially and you can just buy it. As opposed to Samsung, who has a transparent micro LED that right now is for commercial use. Although I guess if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can technically have one custom fit for your house. But for the most part, Samsung's solution, these micro LED transparent panels, will probably be used in, I think people mentioned in like sporting arenas, that sort of thing, where they can have it on the scoreboards or just glass around different booths to show off information. So you can have what look like holograms right in front of you on the see-through glass. But LG's OLED is interesting because it has a panel on the back, think of like the black panel that makes the image on the OLED look really, really good, right? Especially in like darker areas. Having that black contrasting background is really what makes like the whole picture come together. Well, you can actually take that down almost like it's a curtain kind of coming down, and then you have this holographic looking image. I guess the idea here, as they've described it, is it would blend in nicely. It won't look like there's just a massive OLED panel there. You can, for example, have it look like a fish tank or a fireplace. I was looking at this. I think it's one of those things that plays into the idea of a party trick, but I don't think I would really watch movies or play games without that black background, because that's to me what makes an OLED look as nice as it does. Also, let's face it, this is going to be probably thousands of dollars more than even like the LG C OLED line, which is about what they have this particular one in terms of image quality set up alongside. So again, cool idea. You have like a nice 77-inch OLED that can go transparent in this way, but I just don't know if the practicality or just the use case for it would line up with the amount of money you'd be putting out. But maybe I'm missing something. Let me know if you would use the transparent OLED for something that I'm just not thinking of. But hey, you can always count on CES for the weird, the impressive, the expensive, and I've always thought about going to one of these shows to do coverage, so maybe at some point in the future. Maybe one year I'll actually make the trip out there. It was in Las Vegas, so that could just be fun in general. But let me know what you guys thought about the show this year and what some of your favorite or most interesting announcements were. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.